We have the idea of this film around 1997 because it's during the handover. And because at that moment, the Chinese government promised Hong Kong 50 years and change. So 246 actually is the last years of this promise. And I think it would be interesting to use these numbers to make a film about promises. So at the very beginning, the film is, we intended to make it like an opera. So we have 3 short stories in the film based on a Western opera. And we have, each story we have two actors and actresses in the film. So it's a huge cast. So by the time we get all this finance and the production, it's already the end of 1999. And at the same time, we are working on the film In the Mood for Love. At first, these 2 films is 2 different projects. But somehow, because of the schedule, we have to start at the same times in Bangkok. And we think In the Mood for Love is a relatively more easy film. And it will be like, because we have only two actors in the film, and it's a very simple story, it would take like 2 or 3 months, and then we can start on the film, 246 again. But somehow In the Mood for Love takes much longer than we expected. So we have to delay the film, delay the production of 246. But because of the cast, each of them are very busy. So we have to work out the schedule again. And so, but we also have other problems, like at first we want to shoot the film in Shanghai, but we need to wait for the permits. And by the time when we get the permits, we build the set and the cast is ready, we have the problem of SARS. So we have to release the productions and to gather these people months later. And during this few years, actually, the relationship between In the Mood for Love and 246 becomes much closer. I think it's because of the room numbers. Because at one point when I'm working on both films, I think it's very difficult to think of them as 2 separate films. So one day when I was shooting in Bangkok, in the hotel rooms, which is the room that Tony and Maggie spend together, is In the Mood for Love. And I realized the room number is like 30 something. So I said, well, why don't we put it as 246? At first, it's like a joke, but for me, psychologically, it's like 2 films are related. And since then, the structure of 246 began to change and evolve around this point. So now, this 2 stories has something common. So and the characters of Tony is become like a linkage between these 2 films. At first, we don't have this character, the writer, in the film. And Tony in the film, in the original idea of 246 is a postman. But somehow I changed it. And so the structure of 246 changed a lot. At first, it's, the futuristic part is like 50% of the film, but we think it's very, very difficult and very expensive, so we can't afford it because now we have a much longer production period. So we have to cut that part. And at the end, so we have the film. Because for me, In the Mood for Love is a love story. It's about 2 persons. And the man, the writers in the film, is a family man. He believes in commitment, in marriage. He works hard. He stays at home. And but afterwards, when he goes through all the things with Maggie and all this, his miserable days in Singapore, he comes back to Hong Kong. He goes to another extreme. Now he's not married. he don't believe in commitment. He become a cynical person, and he preferred to stay in hotel rooms instead of to find a place to settle down. And in the mood for love, it is a relationship about just two persons, even though we don't see any physical contact between these two persons, but we can feel that the love is growing. But in this film, 246, to me, it's more like a story about his writer. It's a story about love, what love means to him. In this film, Maggie is not a person, it's an image, an ideal woman in his memory. So he always compares this woman with all the women that he came across in his life. And he tried to go into some relationship which is very physical. He wants to experience that emotion again. He would try to find the love that he wants. But even though it's very physical, but at the end, he realized it's not what he wants. And so these two films is two different approaches, and at certain point it's a mirror to each other's. Or we put it that way, if the audience haven't seen In the Mood for Love before, they should watch 246 first. And if they want to know what happened between Maggie and Tony, they should watch In the Mood for Love later. It's like the missing chapter of these novels. The reason we want to make In the Mood for Love in the year 2000 is we realize Hong Kong is going through a big changes. And also Hong Kong is a city that moves very fast, change very fast. It's almost eating his own history. So we want to capture something like some of the locations and places, or even the dresses and the manner, the way the people live in those days in the film. So in other words, it's almost like we created a 246 on the film, because all this image in the film on the celluloid will not change. So we're just trying to preserve that. And then because of the structure of the story, because 246 is based on the same characters, which is a few years later. So we have to make the film in the 60s. But the film is more about, the background of the film is more vague, I think, because like this story in the Mood for 246, actually it can happen anytime, anywhere. And for Arrows, at first it is I have the inspiration from novels, because I always want to make a films in Shanghai. The story should set in Shanghai 1930, but somehow because of the SARS and everything, we're not able to shoot in Shanghai. And also because we have a very tight schedule. We have only like 5 days with Gong, and the whole production is only lasts for 2 weeks. So we have to shoot it in Hong Kong. I think I realize it is something after Cannes, especially in these few weeks, because we show the films in most of the territories in Asia and also in France. And I realize a lot of people who have seen the film in Cannes have their own versions. It's almost like what Marcel Proust said, is memories are imaginations, because they have their own versions, and they would think of, there's some strange idea, they think, well, this film is longer, and this scene is different from the one that's in Cannes, but in fact it's the same. I think the reason we want to present the film to Cannes is I want to have a deadline for the productions. We need to have a momentum, because it's unusual to make a film or to keep a team to work on a project for 5 years. So at a certain point we would say, well, now this is the end. We have to go for it. And because no one can imagine that we didn't show the film in Cannes or we missed the screening. So even though we know that it's very risky, I think the post-production schedule is hectic, is something that no one can imagine. So we work like 24 hours a day. And we know that there are some scenes will be missing because of the CGI. But somehow, that evening, when the film was shown in Cannes, it's, for me personally, it's the first time I watched the film as a whole on the screen. And even though I noticed the sound is not perfect, and because we have to mix the film from the middle of the film instead of from the beginning to the end, so it didn't work very well to me. And also, there's some scenes that's supposed to be there is missed. But somehow I feel that the film is there. And I know that, well, we have the film. So after Cannes, we just put back all the scenes which are supposed to be there, and then to remix the film again. Of course, we have to adjust the order because we have additional scenes, and if we take out something which I think we can shorten it. So in fact, the film, the version that we're showing now, is exactly the same durations as the one that we have in Cannes. So to me, both versions is more or less the same. As far as I remember, I think I met Zhang Ziyi before she made Crouching Tiger. And so we decided to use her before that. And afterwards, she's in a lot of martial art film. So for the audience, they think, well, she's very good in martial arts things. But in fact, I still remember she's after Zhang Yimou's film. She's rather young, but she's very, very aggressive and very sensitive. And so that's why I think she will be good in this role. And in fact, the role of Bai Ling is extremely hard for her because she don't know nothing about the ballroom dancers in Hong Kong during that period. So I have to give her a lot of references. Like I have to show her some of the Shaw Brothers film that was made during that period about those women, to at least to give her an idea of how they behave. And also I have to ask William, my production designer, to give her all the costumes to dress up and to rehearse on her own, like in the hotel rooms, because she has to fit in those costumes. That costume will restrict the body in certain form, and you have to behave in a certain way. And it's different from In the Mood for Love, because In the Mood for Love is about a family woman. She's more sophisticated and very mild, very subtle. But in this film, she's supposed to be a ballroom dancer, so she has to be very, very, in a way, show off. And it's very hard for her because she don't have any idea of those things, and it takes time for her to practice. And for the first 2 weeks during the production, we just take a lot of shots about she's coming back, going out, walking in, walking out, to make her believe herself as that person. And then we go into the story. I think it's more challenging for him because he goes from one extreme to the other. And it's almost like a very dark characters at the beginning, like the chapter between Tony and Zhang Ziyi is almost like he's like a playboy. And he always asks me, am I the same person? I said, why not? I said, well, when you meet someone, at certain stage, you will have certain impression about this person's, and later on when you know him better, you realize 5 years ago he's a very decent man, or 10 years ago he's just like a kid. So we have to understand these characters one by one, and it's very hard for him. He has to work with the 5 strongest actresses in Asia. Each of them is very attractive, and they are doing very good job. And it's hard to go through, like, you have to have 3 or 4 very intense relationship during a few months. So it's very hard. Well, we are working on the script yet. We have the ideas because I think normally I will build a story around one characters, and I think it will be interesting to have Nicole Kidman to play it as a woman who claimed herself she came from Shanghai, and it's very mysterious.